Kakoon for its various soups. It's very popular with janga. So they make a soup with the janga and the Kakoon. I have tried Kakoon, don't like it. But I've heard a Maroon say that if he could eat Kakoon every day for the rest of his life, he couldn't be happy. I would say it's an acquired taste. I have never, but I don't know if anybody has ever eaten or smelled stinking toe. Yes. To me, Kakoon kind of has the smell of kind of has just a slight smell of stinking toast to me. And it's that similar kind of thing. You crack open the hard shell and you take out the substance inside. So, I don't know. As I said, it's a very acquired taste, but the Maroons up. But the whole point of me showing you is just simply, as I said, to point out to you that the Maroons in many ways had to adapt to their environment that they found themselves in. And had to learn about the environment for survival. Being in those remote, inaccessible areas was very difficult. Life was extremely hard. And they had to find ways and means of ensuring their survival. Another way in which they have done that, especially when it comes to healing and health, is through herbs. Here I just have a picture of 2 herbs. Anybody can identify, 2 plants, anybody can identify them. What's this one? This one. I think I heard somebody say it. No. Ooh. Show a hand if you think you know what it is. Show a hand if you think you know what it is. And it's not aloe vera or single Bible. Yes, sir. No, it's not leaf or life. I'll give you a hint. Actually, what is of most use in that plant is what grows underground. They use it to make starch. Alright. It's arrowroot. Arrowroot. And they actually use the 2 of the arrowroot for a number of things. They use it to make starch, which can be used for ironing clothes, but also used to make I heard somebody say that. Porridge, thank you very much. And the other plant that is from is castor oil. I want to use castor oil for. But the Maroons use a number of herbs. Some of the names that I brought with me, and you may be familiar with some of them. Comfrey. You know comfrey? Yes. Madam Faith. I heard people talking about aloe vera, leaf of life earlier. They have a herb called dog blood, dog tongue. They even use courage. For certain things. They also have some names for some of the herbs that I don't think it would be appropriate for me to mention here, but they use them for any manner of herbal remedies that you can think of. Another aspect of them making use of their environment, of course, is just in terms of the implements. Maroons wouldn't have been able all the time to have gone to buy plates, cups, so they would have used things from their environment for the implements that they needed. This is an example of a calabash cup and a calabash bowl. And of course they've decorated them. So, what you see amongst the Maroon cultures is a number of different aspects of African culture that they have brought with them. The story of the Maroons is really a story of independence and a story of survival. If for a minute we don't think about the other enslaved that remain and just look only at the Maroons, what you see in the story of the Maroons is a group of people who are determined to escape bondage. They were determined to escape oppression. And the oppression that was put on them by their colonial masters wasn't simply a restriction of movement, but it was a restriction in many aspects of their life, including a restriction on very many cultural aspects. Simply how they name themselves, the foods that they would have eaten, a number of aspects of their African heritage they would have had no freedom to maintain those on the plantation. So the history of the Maroons is one of resistance against a number of things. They are able to maintain freedom, in political independence. They are able to obtain some sense of movement, but they are also very importantly able to attain independence in carrying on their cultural traditions, which we can observe to this day. Thank you very much. I have now 5 minutes past 10 and I know you're supposed to move on to view exhibition. Sorry, past 11. I know you're supposed to move on, but if there are any questions, I can spend a few minutes answering questions before you all move. Show of hands if any. Yes, at the back. Sorry. There's a question. Can I just hear it, please? Four Maroon settlements currently in Jamaica are Accompong, which is St. Elizabeth, Charlestown, which is Buff Bay, Portland, Moortown, which is Rio Grande Valley, Portland, and Scotts Hall, St. Mary. So Accompong, Scotts Hall, Charlestown, Moortown. And just a note there, Moortown, I don't know anybody if you're familiar with the Rio Grande Valley, but Moortown is really kind of like the capital of that Maroon area. But there are a number of settlements in that general area which are Maroon settlements. I don't know if you heard of Comfort Castle. Over Christmas, you heard about the big accident where the 40 people died. They were coming from a community called Millbank. Millbank is further up the road from Moortown and it also has a number of Maroons. So Moortown, Comfort Castle, Millbank, Greytown, Seaman's Valley, all of those communities in the Rio Grande Valley are Maroon communities. Follow? But a number of things come to mind right away. One thing that I have heard people speculate on is that a number of the early Maroons were Akan, were Cromanti, and because of the particular ethnic group they came from in Africa, they were predisposed to that kind of action. They exhibited those type of characteristics. I don't know to what extent that is necessarily true, but that is one explanation. There's also the whole issue of leadership. When you look through Maroons, wherever it is, whether it is Yanga in Mexico, or it was Juan Lebolos, or later on Grande Nani, or you have to look on the influence of those individuals who were great leaders and who were able to organize persons following them. Another thing simply is, when you look across those people generally, there are people who have different characteristics. Some persons are, and again, I don't necessarily like the word, but passive or certainly less violent than others. It could well be that in the early days, as I said, a number of Maroon groups were started by just a handful of people. Maybe just a handful of people who had that type of determination left, and sometime after, another individual or two with that type of determination left. And eventually they would have formed larger and larger and larger groups. So it could be a number of factors which resulted in these particular sets of people becoming Maroon, running away and forming these communities. Somebody over there had a question? Yes? Yeah. I believe there are a form of home, but I don't know. Bloodhound. Yeah, I don't think it's a bloodhound, but I'm not quite sure what the real thought were, except that I've heard that they were homes. But even that I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. Tarsi. Catch birds. They put stuff on the bamboo pole and stick up into the trees when the birds come with the perch. Capture the perch on the bamboo pole and the sack that they use on it. They get stuck in it and can't fly out.